Rachel is here. Are we going to be able to see the other people?
Yep. She's about to be a panelist. Oh, snap. All right, we are live. I am also hitting record, so like don't do anything that you don't want recorded.
Was that said specifically to me or Stephanie?
Just
I think
everyone.
I think that could have gone either way.
Everyone.
I thought I was going to be in the car and now I'm here.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Jade. Hi, Rhea. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Stephanie can't hear me, or Stephanie is just ignoring me, but that's fine. Whatever.
I can hear you.
I'm taking it personally.
I was like, should I put on some lip gloss? And I was literally stuck in my head and it was really embarrassing. So my bad.
I was like, for me, is this all about me? No, I'm kidding. Oh, wait, we're recording. This is now forever in the archives. I'm conceited.
All is well. All is well. Great cold start. Quite. Well, welcome everyone to the House of Afros, Capes, and Curls, the House Book Club. Yay! All right, so my name is Jade Rogers. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer. I always look up like, who am I? I don't know why I do that. Because anyway, Chief Innovation Officer of the House of Afros, Capes, and Curls. And we have today for our webinar discussion about the book Kindred by Octavia Butler. We have on the controls, the 1212, Raya. And we have Stephanie and Rachel that are also a part of this conversation. And I am by no means leading the conversation, but I do have questions to guide the conversation. Okay, that's how I say that. Because this is not my show. This is our conversation. Did anybody want to say anything as we get started?
Thank you for recommending this book. It was amazing.
Yay, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
The bar was so high and like it met the bar like in the first section. I was like, okay, this is great.
Okay, so first impressions. Had you read any Octavia Butler before? Rachel, had you read anything?
I had read some, so I guess my confession is that I read this book last summer, and no one around me had read Kindred. And so I haven't had a chance to talk about it. And I'd read some short stories before then, but I had not read a full length. This was the first full length book of Butler's that I read.
Okay. Okay, well, I think I have a long association with Octavia Butler. She is my favorite author. It is my favorite book of all time. I used to teach when I was in grad school at the University of Iowa, and I was teaching African American literature. It was in all of my classes. And I loved it because even for students that were reluctant readers, a lot of my male athletes, they were like, I don't want to read a book. I don't really need this class. My coach said I had to do this, that sort of thing. Even they would take the book, come back the very next class, and like, oh my God, I had dreams last night. So it was, I fell in love even more with the book when I realized that it was accessible to so many people. So, okay. Kindred was written in 1979 by Octavia Butler. Octavia is the first recognized African-American sci-fi writer. She won multiple awards, including the MacArthur Genius Prize. Kindred is her second or third novel, but it is the least science fiction of all of her work. She has several series of books, and I can put that information in links as well, that are there's one that I'm actually reading again right now, Parable of the Sower. So the parable books, Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents, and those books, especially Sower, is so prophetic for where we are in the world right now. That's all I will say about that one. So Kindred is one of her standalone books, and let's see if I remember the back page. Dana is a woman, an African-American woman living in California in 1979. And she is somehow transported to a plantation in Maryland in 1815, where she discovers her family resides. The story becomes less about how she gets there, but more about how she sees slavery, how she deals with home, and who is family. Okay. So that's my introduction to the book there.
And you know, it threw me off because I kept thinking in my head Afrofuturist.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my first book, and I'm like, we are not going in the future. We're going backwards. Now I'm very confused. I was legit confused.
Yeah, and that's a
and
good
it was
point.
still everything.
That's a good point, because Afrofuturism is at once about the future and the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about both of those things. It's always about seeing and telling Black stories and them being the center of the story in the future, but there's always a connection to the past, because there are always connections to the past. And you mentioned that, and I will mention a few other people. So she has heavily influenced a lot of writers, Black female writers in particular. Tananarive Due writes science fiction and horror. She has a documentary called Horror Noir on one of those you got to pay for it channels. I don't know. I keep trying to find it somewhere else, even though I don't really like horror, but I love Tananarive. She has, and I can put links to her website. She does a lot via Zoom. She and her husband they write together, and he also writes science fiction and Afrofuturism. And they actually have an Afrofuturism class that they do online. And I took that a few years ago, and it was, it was amazing. It was an amazing class. It was so worth it. So Tananarive Due, heavily influenced, and I know that she's been doing some conversations about Octavia Butler's work here in the COVIDs. Nnedi Okorafor is a Nigerian American author who writes African futurism, so African futurism, and African Jujuism. Afrofuturism was a term that a white author created, and so then in some camps there's a little pushback to the terminology, and that it is not truly as encompassing, but she is very specifically writing from an African perspective, and that's where the African futurism comes from. She has the Akata series, the Binti series. She has become a mentee of George R.R. Martin, the Game of Thrones. And he has taken her under his wing, and she actually has one of her works, Who Fears Death, I think, is in production, series production at HBO. Tommy Adeyemi, I think that's her name. I think that's how you say it. Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance. She is, I would say she's young because, you know, she's younger than me. So she's a young author that is doing some amazing science fiction and fantasy. And her stories are really, really good. I really love her. And then N.K. Jemisin, Juno Diaz, Nalo Hopkinson, and Missy Shaw are just a few other people. And I can put those names and links in a box at another point if people are interested. Okay, and that's the legacy that Octavia has left us with. And talking about that legacy, I'm an historian, and when I was in grad school working on my PhD, and my professor slash chair of the history department for graduate studies slash my boss was having me do so much work, the one thing that I found, other than history and that we just kind of like fell into each other's arms over, was Octavia Butler. And when I found out that she loved Octavia and she found out that I loved Octavia, it was just like, oh my God, I love you. And it got a little bit easier to work with her. Octavia died, I think in 2006. I think it was 2006. And I remember the day she passed away. She fell, I think she fell on ice and hit her head outside of her home and passed away. And I remember Dr. Penn, she called me and told me, like, we had a moment because Octavia had passed away. And she was in the midst of other work, so she left work undone. Okay, so that's a little bit about Octavia and the legacy. And now we move to Kindred. All right, so I have no idea where to start.
It's hard to know. There's so much to unpack. It was such a good book to review, I think, over the 4th of July weekend, because I was already in my feelings about a lot of things. And I said, let's just dig in. So it was between Kindred and Hamilton is what I did this weekend. And I really felt like I got the gambit of what is America.
Right.
But it was so nice to read something without having to think about the filter of how it was being written,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when she says something, like I know she's thought about the nuance and what that means for us versus someone talking about us. And that's why it was a thing that was easier to read.
So let's start with the river, because that's where we start. Dana and Kevin are in their home in California unpacking books. I don't think that is a small thing. I think that's a very significant thing that they have so many books. And it tells a lot about them. They're both writers. So books and writing are an integral part of the story. And the story between them. And then she feels ill. What did you make of the times that she is transported and that transition? Because it's not just a boom at a boom.
I'm making space, Rachel, because I've already spoken a lot. So I
Oh
don't
no,
want to.
and I'm making space because I'm curious Jade, when you say like, are you just asking just impressions about the journey, or are you, I'm not suggesting you're asking a leading question. I think, I mean, I guess I can start answering. You could be like, no, that's not where I'm going.
I do that.
Well, because I think, you know, there's something about, and so some of this is this extrapolated knowledge being, and like things that I've learned and heard talking with Black peers and Black female peers about their experience of racism, and certainly anyone that I've read talking about this. So the sort of discovery and certainly the discovery of my own, you know, some sort of forms of oppression, either oppression that I experience or oppression that I perpetrate on others. But this sort of like unknown sort of illness feeling, right? And this feeling of being sucked into something. So I always sort of there's like this feeling of nausea, like this, like, if I'm remembering correctly, this feeling of like nausea and being drawn in or drawn away and sucked in, and like not wanting to be a part of something that I'm not trying to put on top of things, but there's this sort of illness, right? And this kind of sickness feeling.
Right.
And disconcerted feeling that comes to be familiar to Dana over time. But at first is very both recognizable and unrecognizable. And I think if I'm going to be really super analytical about it, like I would come back and say, like, for me, that's kind of what I came to think about it as, if I was, you know, once I was processing the novel. And whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. And so that sinking feeling of like something's not right, and something in not being able to know what's not right. Right. But like, sorry, please go ahead.
I think the experience, and thinking about it now, I have had it, this feeling like you're going to faint, you're going to pass out, the room goes dark, you feel dizzy and nauseous and cold all at the same time, and you don't know necessarily what's happening. This idea of traumatic experiences, and that it happens every time. It's, I guess, rereading this in the last month, I'm picking up even more things and having certain feelings that I hadn't necessarily felt before, just because of what's happening in the world right now. Just this unexplainable, overwhelming, all-encompassing, forebode, all these words, just feeling that comes from nowhere.
Yeah, and it's so strange because I was still in my Afrofuturism bubble word that just locked in my head. So I'm like, ooh, where is she going, to the future somewhere? But then there's that moment of, because I read lots of books and lots of fantasy, I'm like, is she a witch? Is she a vampire? Like, what exactly is she, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out all the people who normally have power to like change space, always change space intentionally. Like they're a time walker and they choose where they're gonna go, how they're gonna get there. And that lack of choice that Black women have had throughout American history, like really hit me. I'm like, we can't even decide when we go back in time. Like we can't even have that. Like other books, other characters, they get to choose. It's a choice. They go on their own steam, they come back, they have a plan. And like, she's basically just snatched, like the same way that, and like the whole being snatched as a metaphor for all the places that we've been snatched from. like really, really hit me. And I was like, okay, it's so good.
And the snatching with her level of intellect and book knowledge.
Mhm.
And she thinks, oh, they're not gonna kill me. Like, as long as I comply, as long as I don't resist, no, it's gonna be okay.
But like her knowledge of like what has happened to Black people in America is, if somebody else had gotten snatched into that part, would they have spent time thinking about like, ooh, what happens? When am I most vulnerable? What do they really want? Do they want me alive? Do they want my body? Like, these are things that I don't know that everybody could have picked up on quickly and like gotten in survival mode fast enough. But like, she shows up in survival mode. She's like, now what's happening? And she's making choices. And that's why I like that she's our narrator, because she is telling us what choices she is making. She's like, and I'm going to do this. There might be a consequence, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I love hearing that. So there's like no power in the extraction, but there's power in every single thing she does. And I love that.
At the same time, she thinks that she can do all of these things. And she's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know anything about that. Like, she still has this knowledge and she uses it and she can leverage it, but then there are still so many things that she has no idea how to manage this situation. The I think it's in the next part of the book, because we're going to talk about the first 3 chapters today. The river, the fire, the fall. But when she goes and she's like, oh, I have a headache. Oh, wait a minute. What do I take for pain? Just these little things that are so easily accessible in 1979 or 2020. But if you're thrown into that situation, you do have to think on your feet and work through a situation, and your knowledge of history will help.
Yeah, having knowledge about what a beating looks like versus seeing a beating versus getting a beating are 3 very different experiences. She's like, nah, I read about it. I knew it was going to be bad. I know that's a snap. Like, I know who that person is. That's terrible though.
Right.
So I see what you're saying.
And oh man, and when she's talking about that, watching that man be beaten the first time she sees him, and the fact that she can smell the blood and the sweat. It's like, oh.
That was hard.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so many things.
Because books can't get you there, right? Like, books can't, like, I can read about it, but a book can't tell me what the sound of him breathing heavy. He's like, he's not crying. He's being strong, but she's like, I can tell when he is broken.
Right.
Ooh, that was a lot.
And
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and what's I think amazing about the writing in Kindred at this, overall, but certainly like it's so, I don't know how I'm not a literary person. So like, it's so matter of fact in that way. It's so direct in the writing. It's so specific. And so it just lays it out in front of you. And in that way, in its direct and plainness, it is hyperly realistic for us going along with Dana on her journey and experiencing that with her, because we, like her, do not know what it is like to exist in the antebellum South. Like, we may have experienced watching someone be randomly and rather savagely hit in front of us. But in that specific context, with that much disorientation, because she's been sucked through time. Yeah, and I think that's what's amazing about that writing, throughout the whole novel, and what makes the book not only connectable, but also so readable and digestible and relatable.
I agree. And it's not something I would it's not something I have read from a white author, right? So they're talking about like, ooh, I bet she felt really bad about doing that, but the rule says you have to do it. She's like, ooh, I'm very upset that the child has to see this. I'm very upset that this woman is shivering and oops, now they saw her. Now, like, I'm very upset that I can smell this, that I can hear him breathing, that he is struggling. She's talking about what it feels like to be Black in that moment, as opposed to this sympathy whitewashing that I get sometimes, where it's like, well, he didn't want to do it, but someone told him to go out there and do it, so he did it. And I feel like that's something I haven't read a lot. Maybe it's out there. I just haven't. I mean, I'm reading vampires and mess, so I miss
They're not
very
sympathetic white vampires that's fine. That's fair. Fair analysis.
Her explanation, I went back in the beginning and something hit me different this time. When she goes, the first time that she goes, and Rufus, who is the little boy that will continue to have connection with, she saves his life. She's never actually performed CPR, but she's seen it done, and she is sufficiently sure that she can do it. So she does it, and she saves the boy's life. And then when she is transported back home after Tom Whalen pulls the gun on her and hears the click, and she's gone. Her explaining it to Kevin, and Kevin being like, okay, I know I was here and you were here, and then you were gone, and then you appeared over there. And he knows that something happened, but he can't wrap his mind around what actually happened. And she's saying, I'm wet. I saw this happened to me. And he's just like, I don't understand. And I made a note, her explaining to Kevin and his confused and questioning her sanity, but knowing that it happened just as he knew that it happened. Racism today.
Kevin.
Word.
Kevin.
You know it's happening. You know it's happening. But even in the midst of seeing it, are like, I don't know what's going on.
Tell me a different way. I know you're tired and you're almost shot, but tell me a different way.
Right. Was that the time?
And can we talk about her clothes at some point? Because like, I really started to figure out, like in that first scene, she's got the pants on. They're like, it's a woman wearing pants.
Right.
And like, I feel like that's trying to tell me something. Like Kevin thinks nothing of her wearing pants. He questions everything else. He's got no questions about the pants. I feel like the pants are somehow really pivotal and important, and like androgynous and gender. There's something going on and I can't figure it out. Can we talk about it? And by we talk about it, I mean y'all tell me what y'all think. That's what I mean by that.
I want to comment that what I really appreciate about the conversation, and I'm just like, I'm enjoying, and I'm going to read the what Raya wrote about Joanna, right? Joanna writing like that it's an ordinary, that Dana, about Dana, I'm assuming that's an ordinary woman with extraordinary power, plus is a Black woman in any century. Like, I think what's powerful about the experience, and I'm sorry, Jade, I keep referring to the book in general. I'm going to be so prepared for the next one because I'll know I'll be there. Equals, sorry. Thanks. That it's an ordinary woman with extraordinary power is the same thing as a Black woman in any century. is like these are these sci-fi like white dudes, generic white dudes that we see. Like I'm thinking about like Mars and like how, you know, quote unquote extraordinary Matt Damon is. I'm going to the movie because I didn't read the book, right? So I don't know what the character's name actually is, right? Matt Damon. What?
Oh no, not that one. I thought you were talking about John Carter of Mars, but no, go on.
We love John Carter. That's a whole separate conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, we can talk about that too. But anyway, but like these guys who are like, you know, every person, every human, and they get dropped into these extraordinary circumstances, but they're like super confident, except in a couple areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're just like semi super competent. And and Dana is like really smart and really competent. And like, I watch CPR, so I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's what's so awesome about watching her through this whole novel is like, she is like amazingly super competent.
Yes.
But Kevin.
Even though when she does things, it's like I can see her like, oh, I'm gonna do that, but oh, is that gonna work out?
Is that right?
You know, but she does it. Like
right.
You from the outside, she is very confident and she does that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But on the inside, it's like, oh, I hope this works.
That's why I like hearing from her. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still in the front where she goes out of the house to get like the scarf or the blanket or whatever she's going to get, the wrap.
Mm-hmm.
And like she gets snatched again, right? So she feels like, okay, I'm gonna deal with what I'm in and get snatched again by a person. And to hear her second guess, she's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. So she can save someone's life, but taking someone's life or hurting somebody is somehow like a different thing, right?
Right.
And I really appreciated that she's like, yeah, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to do this because clearly this dude's he's not taking any prisoners here. So there's that appreciation for humanity that I feel like sometimes Black women don't get enough credit for, because I see her always trying to save somebody. Like she saved little Rufus. She didn't want to hurt that dude, but she's like, listen, and he was brutally attacking her, right? And she's like, I can't poke his eyes out. That'd be bad.
Oh, is that in the last half of the book?
No, it's in the beginning.
Oh,
one of the little snatcher dudes that came back and he was looking for that lady.
For Alice. Yes, he comes back to Alice's cabin. Yes.
He'd been thinking about Alice for like 7 hours and was like, I'm gonna go back and see what Alice saw. That's what happened. So that's the voice I put on it. I'm gonna see.
So is Kevin her weakness? Like then is Kevin like her Achilles heel? I'm trying to take it back to Kevin for you. Like is Kevin?
Listen, Kevin is the worst. Like I just don't have anything for Kevin.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel.
Oh.
Kevin was trying to get rid of the books, first of all. So I was like, Kevin, why you gotta get rid of her books? First of all, Kevin lost me when the kids were playing like auction block. And he was like,
oh yeah.
We could talk the whole night about that scene. Like they're playing auction block and she's like, this is hurting her soul. And he's like, yeah, but like, it's just, what they see. So it's okay. Like, why are you so mad?
Yeah. Like,
explain to me some more, boo, why you're so mad. And these kids are playing, putting a value on someone's life and selling them and not talking. What? That's when I was like, Kevin, you canceled Kevin. I canceled Kevin retroactively in 2020.
Like, you're out, Kevin.
Kevin's done.
So that's in the fall. The children, the enslaved children are pretending, they're playing, selling each other on an auction block.
That hurt me.
And I think that will be the precursor to the game The Dozens, which is still a part of African American culture. It's still a part of culture.
What are the Dozens? Because I don't know if I know, even though I shouldn't know because I'm Black.
So the Dozens, so the Dozens are the Yo Mama jokes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never liked those. They upset me very quickly.
Well, yes, and as they should for all of us. but it's a it was a coping mechanism, but it's also it calls back to a time where people were sold in lots of 12, so they were sold as a dozen, and they are put on display and interrogated physically, visually, and orally to see what their skills are. They're also, not always clothed. People can touch and feel and whatever and check and inspect. I mean, just like you would any piece of merchandise that you purchase at the store or livestock. And what Black people did was turn that into a game where you make fun of people. So it's a lot of things all at once. It's this is what we see and this is what we know, turning it into this is something that we can all collectively laugh about, but there's nothing funny about it. I'm sorry. That's when things get really heavy for me right now. It's like, oh.
See, and Kevin would be like, so why are you mad? And this is why I don't like it.
Right.
Kevin can see her distress, right? And it's like they're just playing. Like I thought you and I were gonna kick it right now. So let's just do us. Why are you worried about, all this stuff out in the world? And Kevin is never worried about the world. She's like, do you know the history? We're not going out west right now. They're killing Indians. Kevin's like, what? What'd you say? Kevin, I'm like, Kevin, how are you supposed to be smart too? You have all these books. They are not connecting in your head.
He has a very different view of history because the same things don't touch him that have touched her. It's just like the very first, well, no, it was, I think, the second trip. And she realized who Alice was and who Rufus was. She very quickly realized that Alice is my grandmother, how many ever times removed, and that makes Rufus my grandfather so many times removed. And these are family members. So there's a connection, a deeper connection for her because they are family, even though the circumstances, it doesn't matter, they're still family. Because then there's also that sci-fi thing. What if something happens to him? What's going to happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole other level of
to Rufus, you mean?
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure him was referring to Rufus and not
yes,
Kevin.
Rufus.
Okay.
Yes.
We are not worried about Kevin.
Yeah, well, that is clear.
Oh my
I'm joking.
goodness.
Kevin's
No,
got something.
but I think it doesn't. I mean, I was thinking, I remember reading the book and thinking like, would they have behaved if the book was set? I was like 79, interracial couple. And I was like, no, Kevin would be the same.
Yeah.
I was
But
like,
that was futuristic in and of itself. Like that wasn't a
oh,
female
totally.
comment. And I was like, I see you just being all, and then the lady being mad. That was the scene that got me like all tapped into like what's happening in this new Karen culture that people keep referring to. And the lady's like, you're not gonna act that way. I see you sneaking around with, Kevin or whatever they called him. And she was really mad. She wanted to kick her out of the house because this is a Christian house.
Margaret.
What's her name?
Margaret?
Yes. See, I can't because it's on my audiobook. So it's worthless to me right now. Never again will I do this.
Yes.
So mad, right? So mad at their interracial something. Like just in the mix, it was like upsetting.
Well, okay, so let's talk about Margaret, Rufus's mom. So she I don't know, every time she starts beating Dana the first time she sees her.
Mm-hmm.
On site.
Right. Dana is trying to revive the child. And no, in 1815, nobody knew anything about CPR, but she starts like he was dying. Why would she need to kill him further? What? She said, I'm here to help. And she's still beating her. Like, she bothers me.
When they talked about her selling, am I too far? I don't know what chapter I'm on because
No,
so I don't know.
Right. That's right.
But that scene was very strong for me because I was like, see, there's other writers will tell you that like white womanhood is like the most gentle thing that's protected. And this woman was like, she was not fragile. She was really trying to make sure that someone's child was sold. Like what? Like that was a lot. Like I was driving in the car and I was mad as I was listening to that part. Like that just really said some stuff to me.
There are volumes, I won't say volume, but there are books about the mistress slave relationship in households, and as much attention as is placed on the master of the household and those relationships, the inner workings of a household and the mistress, so the master's wife, that is always a fascinating understanding that she didn't have power with her husband necessarily. More times than we are comfortable discussing, those slaves were hers.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson,
handed down. Yep.
Those were his slaves. George Washington, those were Martha's slaves. So women they didn't hold the same political power, absolutely not, or voting, or money, or necessarily property, but they do wield power in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And they exact their vengeance on the people that they can. She sold the children for furniture and dishes.
Furniture. She just wanted some new stuff. Like, so she sold someone's children. Like, with the flippantness of like, I can, so I did.
Because they're property. It's the thing you do.
And knowing that history of part of women's dowries, what women could be left in a will was slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So like a man would marry a woman and get all the slaves, but she still like did not hold the whip, but held the whip.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that made me sad. I'm like, how a mother gonna do that to another mother, right? So that's when I get upset as a mom. I'm like,
but remember, does she see them as people?
I mean, that's on her though. Like, no, but how?
Because they're not people.
And I think that's the hardest part. I mean, that's the hardest part, is to translate, because like systemic racism and the infection of systemic racism aside, like to say like, how do you not see a human being as a person?
Mm-hmm.
That's like it doesn't compute. And like, that's what, like, it doesn't translate. And so that scene where she's like starts hitting Dana, like where the mom starts hitting Dana because she's saving like her son,
Mm-hmm.
let alone the whole concept of chattel slavery in general.
Right.
And this is my white naivete sort of also coming through, but there's cruelty, there's the expression of intense, like horrible expressions of racism that come out. And then there's owning a human.
Mm-hmm.
and not
and thinking
and,
you have the right to own that person.
and seeing you know, as property, right? Exactly, Stephanie. So like that's just it's not, it's like I can't even.
So
That's a hard thing to figure out. And like, so when I saw last year, the year before last, I saw the kids in cages. I don't have to have come across any kind of border, any kind of way. I see kids in cages. I have a problem. As a parent and as a human, I have a problem. It doesn't matter what the culture of the times is, or if other people are like, they should have come here legally. Who knows? Like, it's fine. They're safe. It's not okay with me. So I don't know how people sit with something and like blame it on like, oh, the time said it was okay, or this was our culture. Because I feel like I have the ability to know right from wrong. I don't got to see one kid to know there is a problem and I should do something, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, what did I watch? I watched I Am Not Your Negro this weekend too. I was doing the most this week.
Damn.
I was doing the most. How Baldwin talks about like the moral savagery, like what happened to you that you can do these things. And I kept hearing his voice while I'm listening to the story. I maybe did too much hard things this weekend.
So what do you think Octavia put Margaret in a position to observe Dana multiple times? What is it that Margaret is angry about? Why doesn't she like Dana?
Well, she says, she's like, I think she's scared of me. Like her confidence, her boldness, when she's like, hey, I can do something to you. And she's like, okay. And like, I can just picture her, Dana's face being like, whatever. And like, she had to check her own face, like, oh, I'm supposed to be scared of you, but like, I am not. And someone saying that she was, I feel like Dana was just like not, like she knew what power she had, but she had no power over her as like a human. I don't know, I'm not explaining it well, but like I could feel something in that moment where Dana was supposed to be scared and was not. And then Margaret was really uncomfortable. She was like, my threat did not land anywhere. Now she just turned around and started sweeping. I was like, well.
So what is the difference between Dana and all of the other enslaved people that she is accustomed to dealing with?
Like inherent fear and deference.
So like knowing that you'll be free. Because Dana keeps talking about like, or Kevin says, like, you know they will be free. Like, you know that eventually they will be free. And I don't know if the people that Margaret is used to seeing can't sense freedom. They don't know the future. I don't know.
Okay, I'm picking up on what you just put down, Stephanie. So, because this is wacky.
Bring it.
I'm doing it. So I'm thinking about robots, and I'm not to be cruel. Sorry, Raya, is this what you're saying? Did I just steal your thunder? Okay. But like, I'm thinking about sci-fi, like what makes this novel sci-fi, right? And this, like, if she's from the future, like, there's like just tell me to shut up. Cause now I feel like now I'm feeling like an asshole for what I'm saying. Can I say it?
No, I'm listening. Jane's paying attention.
I can say that. So like, because she is from the future, like I'm picking this up, like she is from the future, so she has this advanced knowledge, right? So there's this understanding, there's freedom, like the effect of free will, the effect of freedom, like thinking about like when they talk in sci-fi novels about AIs gaining self-recognition, right? So I'm trying to think about like, is there something inherent that liberation or freedom gives people? Right?
Right. I think that's exactly the point.
Oh,
yeah, I think that's it. I'm like,
where's my apple? No, but I think that it's
a kind bar.
Oh, yay! I'll be there in 2.5 weeks. So, okay.
She's not here.
That's not. Oh, Darn, that's right. That's like unidentifiable but sensible, right? Oh, Joanna, I'll see you in 2.5 weeks. Right? Is that it? Is that, and that's why I think what Stephanie's saying is so like great. It's like advanced, like that advanced, what you were saying, that advanced knowledge. Look at Joanna.
There's something about knowing,
Right.
right? Like, so when I said I was watching Ed Night Negro, I also watched Hamilton. And there's something about watching something and you know what's already happened, and you're like, this part should be good. Like, I wish they'd done that. That knowing what has happened, like that's a benefit.
Right.
And when Dana comes back home and she's like, I gotta read some more books. Like, she's like, I gotta read some more books and learn some more stuff because what I knew was not clearly enough. Like,
Right.
I had read some stuff, but I didn't know about them brining up a whip, and like, there's a lot of things that she knew, but like,
She didn't
depending
know.
on who the author is, you only know a little bit and not like the whole story. So I love that as soon as she gets back, she goes back in the books. Like, that's probably my favorite part. Those books that Kevin was trying to get rid of, she was like, let me go read some books. Let me go get a map of Maryland. Let me see what's going on.
And I think that you said right there is the point of the whole novel. That we, as intelligent 21st century beings, think that we know what slavery was because we've read about it, we've seen it on television or in movies. We know Frederick Douglass's story and Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, and really that people can't really go beyond those three people. But we know what happened, but we don't have any clue. We have absolutely no clue what these people did to survive, what they endured, and what they saw on a daily basis. There's a lot of imagery of weapons and violence, and she talks about in, I think, that second chapter about people that make films think that they understand what violence is, but they have no
She
idea.
says that.
They have no idea what violence is. And she had only been there, that was her second trip. So yeah, I think that's the point of the whole novel, that we think we know, but until you really investigate and really understand individual stories and what they went through on a day-to-day basis, 365 days a year, for how many every years that they were alive,
In survival mode.
every waking hour of the day.
That's a lot. Like, when I realized that, like, when she got home after the first long trip, and she got in the bath, and she's just like, oh, I didn't get in this bath. And I was like, oh, they didn't have baths. Now, I know for a fact there were no baths in the antebellum South. But like, my mind can't even function. And she talks about like sweating and smelling, and like all of this is hard. And I'm trying to get used to smelling different and just feeling different. Like, a book can't tell you what it feels like to not have warm running water constantly going down your body for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, until all the hot water is gone. That's like an example of a thing you can't educate yourself to or through.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I can say.
What Joanna said.
I'm sorry, I lost. Yeah.
I just keep thinking about, hi everyone. Sorry.
Hey, Joanna.
The food is in the oven now, so I'm good.
Okay.
I just keep thinking about her level of self-empowerment that happens, like through each scenario. Like even when she came back the second time, and she's like, looking through the books, and they trying to figure out like when Pennsylvania became a state. No, when the railroad was built.
Right.
And Kevin just knew. He's like, don't bother. It's way later. She was like, I'm gonna look anyway. Like she wants she wants to constantly equip herself with information, whether Kevin knows it or not. She doesn't know it for sure. And I'm learning to appreciate her sense of you know, I gotta figure this out for me. Like, so what, you already know, because I have to go back by myself potentially, and remember and be able to explain this at least to myself, so I can survive. So I kind of like that scene. It's not like she didn't trust her husband. It was just more like, okay, you said what you said, but I'm about to double check.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just keep looking for it, even though I'm terrified half the way reading through every page, terrified for her life. I'm looking forward to all the moments where she's gaining confidence in the midst of all this trauma and drama that's happening. Because no matter how much I think about that, I think about like my life now, and I'm like, oh, you know what? A lot of BS keeps happening around me. But I have to stay, like grateful and present so that I can keep going, so I can keep surviving, so that somebody after me can hear this story, or I can help somebody after me.
Well said. Yeah.
There's something you said, Joanna, about like how she's always learning and she's always knowing things. So she knows things in the current and in the past, right? So when Kevin proposes and she's like, family might not like that. And Kevin's like, what do you mean? My sister's gonna love you. It's gonna be great. She's like, no, it's not gonna go over well, right? Like, I like that she is knowledgeable and just knows so much and is like that emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Wherever she is put, she still has the emotional intelligence and knows people enough to know how they will respond and react. And Kevin is clueless every time. My sister said some horrible things. And she's like, yeah, I know. That was good. You know what? She's like, I'm not even gonna say I told you so, because it's pointless, right? Because she has that emotional something it's in her. So wherever she is, wherever she lands, it comes with it.
It's like intuition, like she doesn't deny that no matter what. She doesn't deny that, these gut feelings that she has, or these emotions that she has, actually turn into facts because she trusts herself enough. Kevin can't relate to that for who knows what reasons. I don't really care. But it's important that as a Black woman, I respect that when I have those moments, right? And so if anybody else tries to like mansplain something to me, I'm just like, oh, okay, you can say that, sure. But my intuition is telling me that XYZ is about to happen, or past experiences are going to tell me that.
So how do you feel about, and we are only going to do the first half of the book, so just remember that. How do we feel about Rufus?
So halfway through the book, what is he? 13,
Trash.
12?
Mm-hmm.
How old is he? He like 12, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He and Nigel are the same age. Start from there. So the fall, they go back. Rufus has fallen out of a tree and broken his leg, and Nigel is with him, and your boy Kevin, go get some help for your friend. And Nigel is like, friend, like my friend, yeah, your boy. What has Rufus learned about Dana?
So he learns that Dana is Kevin's wife. He doesn't want to believe that part though. So he asks him to play the role of slave master and slave instead. Honestly, I don't have too many emotions yet for Rufus, because I understand that he's a child still. He's very much protected in his environment. You know, people don't. He doesn't feel the need to like ask questions because, you know, he's treated a certain type of way in his household.
And he likes it.
He's
He's
taught
like,
to
well,
like
you
it,
gotta
though.
call me master. He's like, I don't want you to call me that, but if someone else hears you, you may want to call me that so you don't get
But you know, no
to the
matter
white
how
meat.
much he tries to flex on Dana, she like snaps him back into reality real fast. Like,
You
hold
can't
on
even
now.
read. Sit down. She's like, you can't even read. She's like, I'm confused. Am I right? Did she basically say that, or did I miss
No,
it?
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
no, that's what she said. No,
Jay's
that's
face was like this.
I
so.
was thinking about the first time that Dana checked Rufus. I thought that was hilarious.
Can't remember what happened the first time.
Yeah.
Was it at the Riverside? No, it was the fire. She texted him after the fire. Remember, she was so frustrated that he even had the stick in his hand, and she snatched it away from him and said something about you shouldn't be playing with fire or whatever. And he said, "You can't talk to me like that." And you know, y'all gotta go get the book now in the other room.
You're
Long
okay.
story short, she checked him, and he said, "I'm gonna tell." And she was like, "Well, how are you gonna explain the fire?" You know, essentially. So.
And and there's the whole, she keeps trying to get him to say blacks or colored or Negro. But for him, he's just like, what, you're a nigger. What is the problem? That's what you are.
And call me master. It's fine.
Right. From his worldview, like what is the difference? Why would I go through all of that? And he says, why do I have to say all that? Yeah. So why?
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, so why does she have such an affinity for him? Why is she protecting him?
Because it's her lineage. That's the only thing I can guess that she's using to convince herself over and over.
She's trying to save him for becoming worse than society. Society will allow him to become horrible. And I think she's trying to like dial it back a little bit. I don't know. But then she knows. Like, I think it's still in the beginning when she comes back and like, I think he's getting beat up for something. And she was like, I can tell he made some bad choices. It's like, so I feel like she's always trying to save him. And also, Octavia Butler is so good, and just writing that piece when she's talking about like, I gotta read Caruso and like pretend that he wasn't in the slave trade. And I was like, say what? We read that book in the school. What's happening? And then she like dropped Gone with the Wind. She's like, I read that, but you know what? That didn't tell an honest depiction at all. Like, she throws shade at like all of the people who wrote about the things, and she was like, you did not do an accurate job talking about what I'm seeing up in these dirt streets. You did not.
Dirt streets in Maryland. Yeah. No.
And why do I think Maryland's not the South? Like, this is such a problem being in Virginia. I think Maryland is North. So I'm like, I'm so confused. And I'm like,
oh, you're in Virginia? You're in Virginia?
I'm from Virginia. So I keep thinking of Maryland as North. So I'm like, North, it can't be that bad up North, but it's bad.
Yeah, Stephanie, it was weird reading in this area. Like, I'm in DC,
Right?
so it was really weird, like, reading it in this, like, knowing exactly where all of this stuff was taking place.
Right.
Because you know that DC, Maryland, Virginia are actually the South.
I mean, I know that Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy.
Yes.
Like, I know. But Northern Virginia tries to act like they different from Richmond. So I'm just like, I don't know.
I'm not allowed to say DC is in the South. I'm not allowed to say I'm in the South because people who live in other parts of the South get really mad at me.
Or Maryland. They don't
like
claim
Maryland,
it. They just don't claim it.
Maryland.
Marlboro. They're not claiming it.
I claim it. I just get beat up if I claim it. So
People in Maryland are Eastern. They are not Southern.
Southern.
They're Eastern and not Southern. It's like Egyptians are Africans.
I'm sorry.
It's all coming together.
It's so I read this sounds like a slight divergence, but it's again, I'm making this about the book, but I was reading Water Dancer, and then also, is that the name of the book? The Ta-Nehisi Coates, the Coates novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I'm thinking about I think there's similar character in oh shoot, that book just escaped me. I'm gonna come back to it. It's another novel that where there's this like disagreeable and that's what I'm calling it, which is not the right way to characterize Rufus, but it's like the son that everyone's trying to that someone is trying to rehabilitate, that an enslaved person, whether it's a female or male, is trying to rehabilitate somehow or educate somehow. And it's not always through time travel. I obviously the Coates novel, written more recently than this one. It's like, is there something about hope in that? Like, is there hope? Is there desperation? Is this part, or is this really just part of white supremacy culture and like believing that we can change white people, like, or that, white people that we. Thanks, Raya. Both that all can be above, but it's also there's this savior. But I think it's also there's a difference between that and like trying to save us, like trying to save white people, right?
I don't think Dana's trying to save Rufus's mindset. I think she's trying to save his life because she knows that she comes from that lineage.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh, excuse me, Joanna.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, is it totally self-serving, do you think?
No.
Okay.
Because she didn't know she didn't know at the river that was her lineage, and she's felt the need to save his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that.
Okay.
But Jade looks like she wants to say something.
Raya was going to say something too, and I want to know what it is.
Raya, go ahead. Raya, go ahead.
So something that I've observed, and I'm sure other people have observed, and it's interesting because it's the opposite reflection of what white supremacy is. Because white supremacy, I was like venting about this earlier. White supremacy is like that's the product of death. That's the product of conquering, and they have this instant fear that Black people want that for themselves as well. But like when you look at stuff like abolition, I said the word and then other words just went flashing to my brain. So when you see stuff like abolition, and when you see like the kind of advocacy that Black people do, like constantly, time and time again, what you see is, as much as we are advocating for our own lives, we're also advocating for the lives of others, including those who have harmed us, whether they realize it or not. And so like a part of that is just like, even though we see Rufus, who's keeps doing all of the things, and I had like written in the comments like, I don't know what I said, actually. I'm not even gonna try. We know it's not because of education. We know education isn't at the core of why people are bigots. We know that it's like a deeper, we can talk about systemic, but also just like social and emotional understanding. Tony, I'm totally bad with names, but yes, probably. She had talked about how like Black people, like how her Black within her Black experience and from the experience that she was raised from her parents, just like being understanding that she had a higher moral ground than the people who were oppressing her. And so it's like our constant and consistent just begrudging habit of trying to elevate their moral standing, and it's just like, but you can do better, and they're like, but I am better, and it's like, and that's why I know you're not. And so it's that constant struggle of us wanting to hope for their betterness, but because they believe that they are better, that keeps them stuck. And it's this fight forever.
I've lived with Rufus and Dana for a long time. And I think it's all of those things that you said. It is about protecting her lineage. But I think that there's also this, if he does what I think he's going to do, then what does that say about where I come from? So this realization that no, he's got to be better. I have to make him better. Like this has to not end up the way that I think it will. And this hope that there is a loving relationship that she is the product of, and trying to, if that is not really there, trying to guard it and make sure that that is what happens.
But that's what we're fed in America. We're fed the Sally Hemings, we were in love, they loved each other story.
Right.
When, like, if you actually loved her, like, you couldn't because you was married. But if you actually loved her,
find some papers.
Right? Maybe you freed her and your children.
Right. Because no, he wasn't married when he started that relationship.
She had died. I forgot. You're right. He was a widow, right? Okay.
She was 14.
So if you were actually, I mean, we keep the statues. Anyways, so what I said what I said. So what happened was, I think she's giving us a reality, because I think people want to romanticize. I feel like Ancestry.com had a commercial of like a young interracial couple from like the slaving times running away together up north. And I was like, y'all keep acting like all these relationships were consensual when they were not.
Right.
Right? And nobody wants to be, no one wants that like at the root of like their existence. And then what does it say about her relationship with Kevin? Like, I keep coming back to Kevin. I'm like, Kevin, you should not even be in this story. And like, now I gotta deal with you and all your mess, Kevin. Like, do you think Kevin feels like he's better? I mean, because when he was like, I need you to type my paper, I was real mad about Kevin. I was like, she's not typing nothing, Kevin. She told you she didn't want to go to secretary school in the first place. You want to do your homework, Kevin?
Well, I think in the first half of the book, I think, of course, Octavia puts him in there on purpose, because we have to deal with all of these relationships and all of these people that are in our families and in our lives. Like the Ancestry.com, how else am I going to account for the 7% Swedish in my ancestry makeup? Like the English, Welsh, and Irish. I how else did it get there? And I know that those people are not listed on the tree.
Right.
Yeah, she forces us to deal with all of those things. And Kevin, he's necessary. Because the last half of the book, then we'll really get to see what he sees and how he perceives this world that he is now in. Because that's what happens. Yeah.
See, I don't know. I think I know why Kevin hurt me, because Kevin is like an example of I can love you and like still be clueless about everything around me. Like, I can love you, and I assume in your love for me that you're gonna learn some things and study some things, and still, like, because it didn't happen to you or a collective that you're a part of, you still don't carry it, right? Like, you don't carry it the same way I carry it. She's not Native American, but she was like, but no, that's terrible, right? Because she carries that collective, what happens when you're oppressed energy. And I feel like in the beginning, I was like, Kevin, I thought you did your own homework. And maybe it's just a sign of the times we're in today, but I'm like, do your own work. Like, you don't just show up to the marriage and you haven't done any work and you don't know some of these things, right? No, I might be too hard on Kevin. Maybe I'll be nice to Kevin.
I think the first half of the book, we can be hard on Kevin and you can continue, but it is a different story the second half of the book. I'm not going to say anything.
And you told me to only talk about the first half, so I said,
Right, right. It's like spoilers. I'm not going to do that. Teasers, just teasers. Yeah.
I'm finding it hard. I want to understand, but I know I don't have any answers yet because I only read the first half of the book. I want to understand why Dana chose him as a husband. Like,
It was something interesting about when she is talking about him, before he even speaks, he walks with this authority that is immediately attractive to her. That he just has this authority and this presence.
that's interesting. Well, there's more to learn. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So you got to read the second half of the book. Oh, part 2.
I like that they have stuff in common still, though. Like, they're both aspiring, or they're both writers. They're both writers.
Right.
And, like, he got his first, probably because of lots of reasons. And so he's got, like, a little bit of coins, and he's, like, super excited. He's like, I'm gonna order the food. I'm gonna take care of you. And there was something unmessy about it. Like, I don't think he was trying to be
I don't think so either.
bad, but I'm like, this is interesting. And I also don't think I knew he wasn't Black for like a little bit. Like, I don't know. I was like, what?
Well, so that was going to be my question, because I carry my white gaze with me. So I assumed he was Black because she was Black. And then when I was like, wait, Kevin's white? And so I kind of assumed that, yeah, right. And I was like, what? And so I assumed, I was like, wow, I just was like, was wrong. So it wasn't just me.
We belong together.
Oh, no.
I'm like, this is the 70s. I'm like,
I was definitely like surprised, but I appreciated how she introduced that he was white.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did appreciate that, but I was also like, oh, did I read that? Yeah.
And I like went back through the book and was like, did I miss a clue that he was white earlier?
No.
Okay.
And it also would have been a very different story if he had been Black.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very different.
Well, yes.
How would it have been? I guess that's a good question. How would it have been different if Kevin were Black?
Shit.
It's a good thing we established that you can say shit in this book club. So go for it, Joanne.
Every once in a while, whatever. That's hard to answer. Because I need to know what type of Black man. Would he be from the South? Would he be from the North, but his folks is raised from the South? Because then I would just go into my imagination and be like, oh, well, this type of Black man, he probably was spawned this way. But
Right, light, dark skin, colorism. There's been so much.
Maryland, 1815. Does it matter?
True.
Doesn't matter.
And she only had to worry about herself and kind of keeping Rufus alive. There was something I appreciated her not having to worry about Kevin all day. Because Kevin's like, I'm so bored having these dumb conversations with people. And I'm like, really, Kevin? Because you ain't almost get beat today, Kevin. You're bored. You're bored. You're tired. Talking about practice. So she didn't have to worry about Kevin. So I appreciated that she didn't have one more burden on her plate. Because she was doing the most. Which is why she packed her bag so thoroughly the next time. She was like, let me get some stuff and put in this bag. Because you know what? We're not going to do it.
So, Alice, what are your thoughts about Alice knowing that she's a relative and she is free living in Maryland? She was born free living in Maryland in 1815. What are your thoughts about Alice? Or have you seen enough of Alice in the first half of the book?
Not really. You don't see her a whole lot. I mean,
remind me, was Alice the one who sent her out to get her shawl from outside? That's Alice, right?
that was her mama that sent her out to get the blanket.
Yeah,
After
see.
she got beaten.
Yes.
Yeah, the mama sent Dana out to get the blanket.
Okay, I'm the one that was Alice. So I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just wondering how Rufus decides to marry Alice. Of course, that's not in the first half of the book. I just knowing that she's a free woman. Yeah, I know, Jay. You can't say nothing.
What else are you wondering? That's a good question. What else are you wondering?
Does Rufus learn to read? Just kidding.
I wonder if Alice and Rufus have more conversations about Dana after Dana goes back to 1976. You know, like halfway through the book, we really don't get any information or intel on the dialogue between Rufus and Alice. We just know they're friends.
Well, when we leave the book, when we leave that second half, Dana is teaching, who is she teaching to read? And then they throw something in the fire. Is it Rufus or is it Nigel?
Nigel, I was grocery shopping when I was listening to that part, so I had to stop a couple times.
Whoever it is, they throw something into the fire and Tom Whalen comes in and then drags her out and she yells to get Kevin. And then Tom begins whipping her. And then she goes home.
All right.
Tom stays behind.
And get to bed.
TBD.
That's got to be a weird feeling, though, to think someone should come back with you and they don't.
She was already worried about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh, Kevin. Because now I'm thinking, was it that he didn't step forward to reach out? Was she too far away? Did he not realize what was getting ready to happen? Like, and he may not have just realized because he's not in her head knowing that she's, getting ready to go back home. And how does her threshold for pain change? Because that's always like the first time she goes because the gun is in her face. It's like, whoa, and she's gone. And the next time she's, afraid of getting, raped, and she's hitting, and she's, it's a fearful situation. And so she goes. And, just she sees the whip. That doesn't scare her. Her threshold for her threshold of pain and what she can endure changes throughout the book.
I hadn't thought about that at all.
And she talks about in that third chapter, so quickly acclimating to a life of slavery. So quickly, she and Kevin both like fall into a groove of, okay, this is what we do. Just very quickly. Man, I love Octavia Butler.
And she questions, what does that say about us? That we like got into this so fast.
So fast. Just like, on a dime. You're the master? No, yeah. Just on a dime. Any other thoughts or comments or questions from people that are viewing?
I bought the book, so I have it on ebook. I will be deeply into it. Oh, look, Nancy said something. Nancy said, our ability and almost second nature of surviving abusive events.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah.
So I don't remember which character it was, but they were talking to Dana, and she's like, yeah, you might get whipped later, but like if it's worth enough to you, it won't even be that bad. And like that, when I heard it said, I had to stop. And I'm like, what did you just, like, they know what's coming. And, if it's worth it to you, like you won't even really feel it. You can deal with it. You can press on. And that was big.
Right. In my classes, I talk about truancy, and truancy is what enslaved women mostly utilized. One, because they didn't have access to leaving households or leaving plantations, fields, leaving the property like men did. And also because they didn't have that same level of access, they didn't understand terrain and distance and just where they would be going. So those, back to the maps that she has, and then access to the knowledge. So enslaved women would find places either in the house or on the property or close to the property and run away and hide for an hour or an afternoon or a day or a few days or a week or a month or a year, however long they could stay out. However long they needed to be gone, they would hide, knowing that they are going to go back. Truancy isn't, I'm escaping and I plan to run further. Truancy is, I'm escaping and I just need a minute. I just need a minute. And they knew that they were going to go back, and they knew that they were going to be punished. So when you said, if it's worth it to you, do it. You're going to get whipped, but if it's worth it to you, that's exactly what women were doing. It was that hour away by themselves, just sitting or just being in their own head, was worth it. And what does that say about the conditions that they were living in? That I know I'm going to get whipped, And like, that's not a spanking with a belt. That is flesh torn from your body. But that is worth it.
Yeah. Stephanie, you said something I was thinking about the self-care truancy. I mean, Jade, I ain't never heard that aspect of women's experiences in slavery, but I respect the risk being taken because you have to have some sort of like escape to like mentally survive, not only physically, but you know, mentally,
Right.
emotionally.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it'd be nice if I could find somewhere to hide. Because I'd be gone for a week too.
Yeah.
And that plays out now in like 2020 as Black women like have a hard time just getting a moment to not be bombarded with seeing Elijah McCain, like his body, like seeing Breonna. Like we have to literally tap out to have self-care. Whereas other people can like tap in and take and get, you know, go to Lush, get some bath bombs. I love Lush. I'm not talking bad about them. Get you some bath bombs. They're gonna like our self-care looks different, and it has always looked different. Like it's survival care and not like it's reactionary and not proactive. It's like, okay, now I've gone to the bottom as far as I can go. Now I gotta just sit for a second. Like that is hurting my spirit right now when you're really describing it. So I'm just like,
It's rest is revolution. I mean, you're talking about like what the NAP ministry puts out, which is,
I love the NAP ministry.
oh, it's right. It's rest is revolution. I mean, that's, and like Joanna, what you were saying, I mean, self-care feels, because of the way it's been co-opted, and not co-opted, but the way it's sold in the wellness industry, right? Is that it becomes about, yes, Raya, to what you wrote in the comments, but it's like being able to establish full and complete independence. Like to be able
it's
to
pampering.
Yeah, I mean, it's the to be able to say like, I can take full control of yourself. It is the ultimate act of elitism, is the ultimate act, but it's like not in no way of any, there's none of that, like the judgment of what elitism is, because it's what everyone really is truly do, is to say like, I am able to take full control of myself.
And that's why as soon as Dana gets home, first thing she does, like as soon as she gets back, it's like, I'm just gonna get in the bathtub. I was like, look, get you some self-care, boo-boo. So first thing she does, she's like, not hot water, not cold water, it's warm water, don't lay down, right? Because like that's our coping mechanism of the 20th century, where before you had to like quietly like pack, like I'm gonna keep this piece of bread. So when next week I go somewhere, I can have a piece of bread. Like I'm gonna hoard a piece of bread for next week.
Right.
That's our ancestors did the thing.
Right.
We have no idea.
Right. When she's looking at the cornmeal mush, like and they're like, you need some more? She's like, no, I'm good. This is
Pasadena. Like, what are you doing?
And the reality of, you know, well, we'll eat better, you know, after they eat, you know, whatever's left. It's like she understood the concept of table scraps, but now she is confronted with, oh my God, I don't get to taste other food unless it has come off of someone else's plate and they didn't want it. And not only am I going to eat it, I'm going to enjoy it when they are done. Because cornmeal mush.
It's not even a hoe cake, it's just cornmeal mush.
No. But even hoe cakes, like, no, I don't. Mm-mm.
Love my food.
No.
So this book is so like on point. Like everything about it, it's just like I can relate and connect to, and also not connect to at all. Like I'm like I get it, and I think I get it, and I can connect with it intellectually, but like viscerally, I don't even know how I would function. Like I don't.
That reminds me of as children, which is crazy because so as a child, I remember playing the, oh, if I was a slave, they wouldn't have done this to me. Which why was I a child having that kind of conversation in the first place? But you know, that is the reality. And to think that now it's like, oh no, I would have hit me once. What you want done? What can I do not to feel that again? I think the fear is I know I would have adapted much faster because I don't in my mind it's like, no, I'm gonna fight back. No, you're gonna die. And if you don't die, somebody else will. Somebody's gonna be punished for that rebelliousness.
Someone you love is going to die.
Right.
And when I hear people say, well, like, you know, there were more Black people in South Carolina than anyone else. Why didn't they? I'm like, if it was going to be your cousin, brother, husband on someone of this plantation, or any of your kids killed, tell me what you're going to do again. I mean, just tell me. Like, I want to hear real bold what you're going to do.
Right.
When everyone you know and love could be wiped out in a moment.
Right. And Nancy's talking about, you know, pain as control, pain to control people. And it was more often pain to the point of just killing somebody. So it doesn't make economic sense to kill you all, but we can hurt you all. So it's torture, and we don't talk about it in those terms, but that's exactly what it is. It's torture of people to the point of exasperation. And there's a point in there where you know, oh, they could die. Okay, we'll pull back a little bit. Because you want them to continue to be able to work. And you want them to still have value because you spent some money on them. So it is about inflicting the pain and the torture to make examples of people.
Doesn't she mention that as a book she reads when she gets back? One of Kevin's books on POW, something. She reads one of his war books and she's like, yes, it's about like that, everything you just said about that punishment to almost dying. So that like flies in the face of Black people don't have feelings. Black people don't feel pain. They knew we felt pain, which is why they did it. Mm-hmm. They knew we could die, which is why they stopped short of killing us. And I'm like, so everything that has been written about the dominant culture, like as they're writing it, it's like negated by every action that they do. So it's just, the struggle is real. I don't know how to articulate it. But.
Yes. And there are people willing to make that sacrifice. Raya said that people are still going to rebel.
Say that again.
People are going to rebel. And it's not always the armed rebellion. Sometimes it's the little things, just the little, oh, he can't tolerate this in his food. Oops.
I just said that there were so many attempts at rebellion, just to acknowledge that there's a lot of rebellions that we aren't taught in school, like a lot.
Yeah.
They're all like, no, they were passive they knew that they
Oh,
couldn't do
yeah.
anything, and it's just like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, we
Oh, no.
tried, like
Oh,
from the
don't
ship to
yeah.
the land, and continuously so.
Don't take my comments as though they
Oh no, I was just like
passive,
re-highlighting,
because
you know.
no, people were not passive. They just found other ways to get around to, okay, no, I'm gonna break this hoe. I can't take this anymore. I'm gonna break this hoe. Massa, the bro hoe. The hoe broke. What? Oh man. Like
I tell you, I always have this little joke in my family because, we talk about racism a lot. Go figure. That I would have been the house slave to poison the master's food. That's just how I would have fought back if I had the opportunity.
yeah, and it's a hard thing, but yeah, it happened all the time, and not to the point of killing, although that happened too. But some people they can't tolerate certain foods, so, and they also, women had a strong knowledge of herbs and plants, and
That's right.
ooh, this one's going to cause diarrhea. just lots of little things that people would do because they knew that a big act put them at risk and put their family at risk. So there are the million little things that people did on a day-to-day basis that were still acts of resistance.
Mm.
Like Black Joy.
So,
Exactly.
closing thoughts about the first half of Kindred.
Everyone should read this book.
Yes.
I think I gained an appreciation when I read it that I wasn't getting from a historical text about slavery. Kindred did something familially. Because kinship is a huge portion of it's at the core of the book. These people are her family. And that just added another element to, what about my family? What did my family go through? What did they see? Even though it's a fictional book, there's nothing in here that she's made up. Right. It's all real history. It's just from a different perspective that she is pointing things out. Oh my God, I love Octavia. If I
haven't gotten past truancy. Like I'm gonna just sit in truancy for a little bit. Because that really, there's this thing about the strong Black woman, and we have to like literally go hard until we hit a wall, and then we like can't anymore. Yeah. And people are like, "Oh, she needs a break," and I'm like, "Why did you ever let us get that close to the wall?" Right? And the fact that people got this close to the wall all the time, and they like would sacrifice just getting a little bit better. With getting beat or probably raped or just treated horribly. And like that just hurts my soul as a human.
Yeah. Yeah. Our understanding of what our foremothers went through is, we have no idea.
Nope. And that they're just as foreign, right? The folks in the past, as much as we have studied them, are just as foreign. Like, I'm going all sci-fi, are just as foreign as like other beings from another planet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's funny that Octavia would write this book being a sci-fi writer and not really use much sci-fi in it. It is a vehicle to tell this story, because that is really how we antiseptically look at history. Like, oh, it was those people then, and there's nothing that touches me about this history at all. But that is not how history works. That's not how memory works. No.
And I remember that time travel show that was on for like a little bit, and the black guy was like, there's nowhere in time I want to go back to, right? Like, because they were like purposely going places. He's like, there's nowhere that we can go in America that direction that's going to be good for me. And that his white counterparts were like, oh, like they really couldn't, like they understood it, but they were like, oh, I can't wait to meet XYZ. He's like, yeah, no, I don't want to meet any of those people. None of this is going to be good. How are we going to explain my existence in any time that we go to, right? And that some of white privilege is having that reverie for the past, like, oh, I would love to go back to Gone with the Wind times. I'm like, would you? Okay, well, maybe you would. Like, that would not work out for anybody in my cohort, but I'm glad to know that you can look back on that with some kind of energy that I just can't carry with me. Ooh, yep. Ryan is on one today.
Yeah.
And so is Nancy. Nancy in here dropping low-key bombs. She said genetic memory is a thing for the Black race, especially. Like, sometimes that's why we always have this conversation sometimes where we say, oh, you don't even have to explain it to me. I know what you're talking about. And even if we haven't like lived that experience that they're talking about, we like empathize with it. That's the same level of understanding that I have about genetic memory. As I read this, it's like I empathize on a lot.
There's something about Nancy said knowingness to some things. Dana realized she knows where she is, and I think that there's this war going on in the background. I know I need to do this. No, I don't want to do that. I think there's this war in the background, especially when it comes to Rufus. I know he's going to be like this. No, I want him to be like that. I think that she knows what's really going to happen and how her line is going to start. But there is this hope. And I think that's the thing, that's the word that is key when talking about enslaved people. There was always a hope that things would be better. There's a hope that the next generation will have more or have more opportunity or not have to endure. There's always hope. It's the reason that people have children and don't abort them or kill them, because there's a hope, because they had, even though there were still even ways, birth control. There were lots of things that women did, but they had the children and brought them to term and let them live. Not always, but enough for there to multiply millions in this country because there was hope.
Well, I look forward to the second half. My dinner is ready, so
I think we're at an ending point as well. It's been almost 2 hours.
Jade, is there another date that's set already?
Next Monday.
Oh, great.
Since it was a part 1, so we don't lose the freshness of the conversation. Get it out. Take a week to marinate.
Same time.
Same time. I would say same time. Stephanie, you available? I am. Maybe
Thank
next time Nancy will be on the screen.
She's looking all TED Talk like in that picture though. Ooh.
Wow.
And that's exactly what that was from. So 2016, life
Yeah.
has changed since then.
Hot.
But yes, I haven't read. I've read Cliff Notes. I have not read this book, and I've been delivering boxes all day, and so I had to eat something while I was listening to y'all. But this is awesome, and I'll be ready for next week. And I like just sitting in the background listening to brilliant women. So I hope that you all identify that way. I missed the beginning, so I don't know if that's true, but if it is, awesome. If it's not, still awesome, and I apologize for misgendering you.
Well, I was like, are you saying that this group didn't identify as
The awesome part.
awesome? Because I feel like
The awesome part is there.
Pretty clear on that part.
Yes.
everybody seems pretty awesome. Well, I want to say,
And Nancy was awesome.
yeah, Nancy, you're awesome. I want to thank everybody because you just for allowing me to be a part of this conversation. It was so awesome. It was awesome. It continued. The awesomeness continues. This is really fantastic.
I thank all of you for coming and
Yes.
joining me in this conversation. And Stephanie for saying we need a book club with the house. So thank you.
Stephanie.
All right. So, and thank you, Mariah, for setting all of this up and
She's good.
doing all the stuff.
There were a
adding
couple
commentary.
glitches, but it's good. Next time we will also have it available on YouTube live. And I had issues with the captions, so next time there'll also be captioning. So yeah.
Inclusive. I like it.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Well, I guess we'll stop recording. Thank you, Mariah.
All right. We did
Bye,
it.
everybody.
Bye. See
We
you
did
next
it.
week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.